Quick question before anything else. What if I told you the team that just won the Premier League never actually got to use its best team, not for one sustained stretch of the whole season? Arsenal are champions of England for the first time since 2004, and the general reaction has been a shrug. They won it on corners. City just had a bad year. Arteta's still only won one league. Here's what almost nobody's said out loud. One number that got buried all season, and one signing that just landed, tell you this title wasn't won by Arsenal's best team. It was won by whatever was left of it. That's the whole point of this video, so let's get it out early. Arsenal are not a solved problem. They're not a set-piece fluke. They won the league with the handbrake on, and the version of this squad that's fully fit hasn't even played a game yet. Okay, but why does that actually matter? Because if it's true, it changes everything about how you should be thinking about this coming season. So let's prove it. Start with the number, 232. That's how many individual matches Arsenal players missed through injury last season, according to Transfermarkt's own data from May. That put the champions 6th in the entire league for games lost to injury, behind teams like Crystal Palace, Chelsea, and Liverpool, none of whom finished anywhere close to them in the table. Now put faces on that number, because 232 is just an abstraction until you see who it actually was. Martin Odegaard, the club captain, was subbed before half-time in 3 consecutive starts. That had literally never happened to anyone in English top-flight history. Then he damaged the medial ligament in his knee against West Ham in October, came back, broke down again, and basically spent the whole season chasing a rhythm he never found. Victor Gyökeres, brought in for a reported 64 million to finally solve the striker problem, tore his hamstring in November and missed the best part of a month. Mikel Merino needed surgery on a stress fracture in his foot. Gabriel Jesus spent most of the year rehabbing knee ligament damage. Havertz, Timber, Madueke, Gabriel Magalhaes, even the teenager Max Daumann, all had extended spells out. And here's what that squad did anyway. 85 points, 26 wins, 71 goals scored, 27 conceded, the best defensive record in the division. 19 clean sheets. 233 days at the top of the table across the season, longer than any previous Arsenal title win. A Champions League run all the way to the final, conceding just 6 goals in 14 matches. They even became the first team in Premier League history to go an entire season without a single red card and without conceding a single penalty. And they did every bit of that while their top league scorer finished on 14 goals. Read that back. Best defense in the country, a run to a European final, a title by 7 points, and they never once had their first choice 11 available for more than a few games in a row. That is not a team that peaked. That's a team that won with a hand tied behind its back. Now, let's talk about Arteta, because the criticism hasn't gone away, it's just changed shape. It used to be he couldn't win the big one. Now it's he wins one and loses 2. And to be fair, that's technically true. 3 finals, 1 trophy. Arsenal lost the Carabao Cup final 2-0 to Man City in March, undone by a Nico O'Reilly brace. They went out of the FA Cup in the quarters. And in Budapest, they lost the Champions League final to PSG 4-3 on penalties after Havertz scored inside 6 minutes, Dembele equalised from the spot, and Gabriel Magalhaes missed the decisive kick. So yes, Arteta still hasn't won a European trophy, and that's a fair thing to say about him. But notice what that criticism actually admits. To lose 3 finals, you have to reach 3 finals. Arsenal were fighting on all those fronts, plus the league at the same time, with half the squad in the treatment room. One honest caveat though, Arteta's now in the final year of his contract. Josh Kroenke's called an extension the top priority. There have been talks, but as of right now, nothing's actually been signed. That's the one piece of Arsenal's stability that isn't locked down yet. So let's talk about the transfer window, because on the surface, it looks quiet, and I want to be straight with you about that. In comes Christos Tsolis, a 24-year-old Greek winger from Club Brugge for around 34 million, after a monster season in Belgium, 22 goals and 29 assists in all competitions. In comes Piero Hincapié, made permanent from Leverkusen for around 34.5 million after impressing on loan. In comes Illan Meslier on a free from Leeds, as the third-choice keeper behind Raya and Kepa. Out goes Leandro Trossard to Besiktas after 174 appearances and 36 goals. Out goes Kivior to Porto, Karl Hein to Werder Bremen, and just this week, Christian Norgard to Everton a player who made just 7 league appearances all season. For a champion, that reads thin. It reads like a club tidying edges, not reshaping a squad. And then there's Bruno Guimarães. This one's actually done now, confirmed just days ago. Arsenal paid 75 million for him, and he's signed a 4-year deal with a 1-year option attached. Here's why this signing actually matters. Because it's being talked about like a luxury buy, and it's the opposite. Arsenal won the league with Declan Rice and Martin Zubimendi covering an enormous share of the minutes, both visibly running on empty by the closing weeks, because Arteta never fully trusted the alternatives. Norgard barely played, Merino was in a surgical boot, Odegaard was unavailable half the year. The engine room that won the title was, in reality, 2 exhausted players and a prayer. Guimarães has made over 150 Premier League appearances, captained a top-flight club, and started every group game for Brazil at the World Cup. He's arriving specifically so Rice and Zubimendi aren't run into the ground over a season that could stretch past 50 games. The honest counter to that, he's 28, not 23. 75 million for a player at that age is a fee Arsenal have usually steered clear of, and if his level dips at 30, there's no resale value to fall back on. But this is a champion spending on the exact thing that nearly cost them the title. That's not a quiet window, that's a targeted one. Now let's talk about what's already in the building, because the whole "how will they cope" narrative skips right past it. Raya was named the division's best goalkeeper. Saliba, Gabriel, Hincapi, Calafiori, Timber, White, Mosquera, and 19-year-old Miles Lewis-Skelly, who started the Champions League final, make up one of the deepest defensive groups in Europe. In midfield, there's Rice, Zubimendi, Merino, Odegaard, Eze, Nwaneri, and now Guimarães. Up front, Saka, Gyökeres, Havertz, Madueke, Martinelli, Jesus, Solis. Then there's the summer itself. Arsenal sent 15 players to the World Cup across 9 different nations. Raya, Zubimendi, and Merino came home as world champions with Spain, with Merino scoring stoppage-time winners in 2 separate knockout rounds. Saka scored a hat-trick in the 3rd-place playoff. Collectively, Arsenal's players combined for 15 assists at the tournament, joint most of any club since records began in 1966. That's not a squad that got lucky. That's one of the 2 or 3 deepest squads on the continent, about to get a full pre-season together for the first time in years. Here's the argument that separates Arsenal from everyone chasing them, and it's barely being made. Continuity. City are starting their first season without Guardiola since 2016. Chelsea are onto another new coach. Liverpool sacked a title-winning manager, lost Salah for nothing, and brought in someone with 0 European experience. United are still figuring themselves out. Arsenal are keeping the manager, the sporting director, the set-piece coach, the captain, the spine of the team, and adding a Brazil international to the one area that was stretched thinnest. Every rival is absorbing change. The champions are absorbing almost none of it. That's worth points on its own, and nobody's pricing it in. Now the fair counter-argument, because a script that hides this isn't honest. The set-piece dependency is real. 19 goals from corners, a new Premier League record, and 25 set-piece goals total, the most in the league. Nicolas Jover's built something genuinely special there, but that's more than a third of Arsenal's league goals coming from dead balls, and every defensive coach in England spent the summer studying how to stop it. If that conversion rate drops even a little, the open play attack has to find goals it didn't need to find last season. Which leads to the second weak point. 14 league goals from your top scorer is not something a champion should be comfortable with. Compare that to Erling Haaland scoring 27 in the league alone. If Arsenal's forwards stay fit and still don't improve on that number, the margin disappears fast. The fixtures aren't kind either. The Community Shield against City comes first, then a run through Coventry, Aston Villa, Chelsea, and a trip to Anfield, before City and Liverpool both come around again in the new year. And the injuries haven't stopped. Saliba's already picked up a back issue in pre-season. Timber missed the World Cup with a groin problem. They lost to Real Betis in a pre-season friendly in Dublin. And history isn't on their side. Arsenal have never retained a Premier League title. So where does that leave the actual numbers? Arsenal are around 6-4 favourites to go back-to-back. City at 5-2, with Liverpool and United a tier behind. One model has Arsenal at just over 30% to win it again. City close behind at just over 27. Favourites, yes. Nothing close to certain. So can Arsenal go back-to-back? Yes. And honestly, they should be favourites for reasons that have nothing to do with corners. The team that won 85 points wasn't Arteta's best team. It was a rotating, patched-together version of it, held up by a defensive structure and a set-piece routine, while the captain, the new striker, and half the forward line took turns on the treatment table. Those 232 missed matches are the real story of last season, and almost nobody told it. If Odegaard gets 35 games instead of a broken 15, if the strikers stay fit and push past last season's numbers, and if Guimarães keeps Rice and Zubimendi fresh into April, this is a stronger side than the one that just won the league and went to penalties in a European final. But if the set-piece numbers regress, if Saliba's back is worse than it looks, if the striker problem turns out to be real and not medical, and the window closes without a marquee forward arriving, this turns into a genuine race, and City are more than capable of taking it back. Either way, the idea that Arsenal are solved, that they're a one-off, a set-piece team who got a lucky year, might be the laziest take in English football right now. They didn't win the title with their best team. They won it with whatever was left of it. So here's the actual question. Has Arsenal's best team even played a single game yet? Drop your prediction in the comments. And tell me straight, are you backing them to go back-to-back, or do you think City take it back this year? Alright, if this made you see Arsenal team from a different angle, do me a favour. Hit that like button. It actually helps way more than you'd think. And if you're not subscribed yet, come on man, what are you waiting for? So, subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next one.